Hi, welcome to the 2025 Refresh Renew Summit from Soul Heart Collaboration. I'm your hostess, Jamie Allen Bishop, and I'm here to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Shannon Hoppenstedt. Yay! Shannon is a licensed therapist and former critical care nurse whose own journey through anxiety, depression, and self-discovery helped shape her path to help others heal. It's amazing how we do that. We go through our own journey and then we go forth and we help others. That's what this whole thing is about. So back to Shannon. With a BA in nursing and extensive training in EMDR, biofield healing, yoga, and ketamine-assisted therapy, she blends neuroscience, somatic awareness, and depth psychology to guide lasting transformation. Shannon believes renewal comes not through perfection, but through presence, compassion, and authenticity. At the Refresh Renew Summit, she invites us on a movement toward wholeness, befriending the inner critic with courage, curiosity, and self-compassion. Please, please help me welcome my friend and soon to be yours, Shannon Hoppenstedt. Yay!
Hi, this is Shannon, and I just wanted to jump on before we get into the meat of the lecture and just offer a little disclaimer that this video is for educational purposes only, and it does not constitute a therapeutic relationship. And I invite you to explore it at your own pace and in your own time, knowing that the demonstration I offer is something that usually takes a bit of time before you might experience. And so go gracefully, go slowly. You'll have a handout at the end so that you can practice it at home over time. And if you're experiencing any emotional distress or mental health concerns, please consult with your licensed therapist or physician or other professional in your area. And as everything varies by state. So thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited to share Befriending the Inner Critic with you. Hi, I'm Shannon. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Jamie, for inviting me to be here and talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. I say that with some tongue in cheek, the inner critic. And as a licensed marriage and family therapist working in private practice here in Los Angeles, California, I come across struggles with the inner critic quite often. And I think we all have our own relationship to the experience of the inner critic. And so I thought today it would be interesting if we're looking at refreshing and renewing, moving from like personal to professional. What does it mean to start to befriend some of these inner parts that some of us maybe hold in our deep unconscious? Maybe we have a good relationship with it already. Maybe we don't even know what I'm talking about. But today we're going to work through, I'll give a little bit of a talk about what the inner critic is, how it shows up. And then we're going to just move into an experiential exercise. I'm going to walk you through what it looks like to get to know an inner part. Why do we want to do this, right? Why do we want to do this? And so in my experience, through my own healing journey and my healing journey with others, the more we move towards an integrated sense of self, the greater joy and ease we have in our life, the more we have access to curiosity and creativity and bringing our gifts forward, because that's really what the world wants, right? We all have these unique gifts. And when our inner critic gets in the way and like kind of shuts us down or sabotages us or puts us, back in the safety zone, we're actually robbing the world of our unique talents and energy and wisdom, that even if 5 other people are saying the same thing, you have a unique voice with which you are sharing that from. And so that's a little bit about why I chose this topic today. Obviously, it's been up for me lately, which is another reason I like to work with true authenticity. So when Jamie asked me to speak, I'm like, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to talk about, because it's exactly what came up when that's what's been in my ethos lately is this inner critic as we step into new territory of being seen or stepping forward, showing ourselves more in the world. But before we get to all of that, I want to share a poem. And so I invite you to take a step back and to pause. Take a deep breath. And this poem is an adaptation that Michael Meade did on some work by Hafiz. And so just receive these words if you feel comfortable closing your eyes and let them drop in and just see where they land in the body. And so the title of the poem is Behold Yourself. Despite all of your doubts and insecurities, you are like a great film or play that everyone needs to see. That's why the old teachers said, behold yourself. The mountains have hints of a beauty that's hidden inside of you as well. The enchanting complexities of the coral reefs are pale lights when compared to the golden candle in your heart. What moves in any ocean also moves through each of us. 1,000 kinds of music play every hour if we become awake enough to orchestrate our own inner resonance. So let the next ticket you buy be a center row seat that places you in the center before your own soul. So let the next ticket that you buy be a center row seat that places you in the center before your own soul. So I thought that that poem was a great representation of what it means to befriend the inner critic, right? And why we might want to do that. So I'm going to share my screen so I can show you my slides. Okay. All right. So a movement towards wholeness, befriending the inner critic. I titled it that. I'm always in my work looking at how do we move towards a greater sense of wholeness or ease. And one of the ways is through the getting to know our inner parts. Yeah, there's some slides, the ocean and the mountain and the candle within our own heart. And finding our center row seat right at the center of our own soul. So I don't know who of you knows about internal family systems. Some of you may have a lot of experience. Some of you may not know it at all. Now I've skipped to the last slide. Thank you. All right. So the inner critic, yay. Internal family systems created by Richard Schwartz. He found that in his clients that he was working with, they kept saying, well, I have a part that does this, or I have this part told me this, right? And so he started to really explore that, thank gosh. And we have internal family systems in this method. So I am not going to give you a lecture about internal family systems. I'm more going to give you an opportunity to experience knowing a specific part. And we're looking at the inner critic and how that protector part of the psyche comes online whenever we're thinking about stepping forward into something new. Maybe we're in a new relationship. Maybe we're in an opportunity to get up and speak in front of people. Maybe we're in a new job. Maybe we're moving, and what is the voice of this critic that comes online that sort of shuts us down? I notice it first when it gets activated. I notice that my body does this thing. It's just a slight, like my shoulders start to sink in and my belly starts to draw towards itself. And so it's like I try and become small. This critic got created a long, long time ago through experience for good reason. And it's there to keep me safe. It's there to protect me. It's just a little confused about how it's doing all of that. And so just like this image here, of this big, and so my inner critic, I would say nowadays it's not quite that intense, but for dramatic emphasis, we're giving it that look. But it works to keep us safe so that we don't re-experience the old pain, shame, or rejection, right? So if in our family of origin, long time ago, we had experiences of being shut down, or, oh, you're too sensitive, or, any number of different experiences, we all have a wide range from, maybe just one instance where you were told children are to be seen and not heard. And what did that do to the psyche of this inner child that doesn't have a full sense of self formed yet? That child said, okay, well, something's not okay with me. I better be small. And then as we go through life, anytime we're being asked to be seen, that voice is going to come on and say, no, you need to be small because you're not okay. You're not right. Right. And so it uses strategies like self-criticism, perfectionism, shaming, doubting to limit our risk. And the big kicker is if I criticize you first, maybe others can't hurt you again. And that can come out in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different experiences and scenarios where you might even throw yourself under the bus first and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know that much. But, even though you probably do. But this critic is saying, if I tell them first who I am, then they won't see me. They won't judge me. So I can give it to them first. So these different covert ways of sabotage that happens with the inner critic. And so what might it look like or sound like inside of your head? Who do you think you are? You are not capable. You cannot do that. People will see right through you, right? If you speak up, you might embarrass yourself. That part that it might be so subtle that you're not hearing it probably in this full language. I mean, you might as a thought, but sometimes for me, it's more of like a subtle body experience that happens. And then it'll just be like, no, and like a nervousness, like a no. Stop being overly sensitive. That's a great one. You should have understood this by now. And you're so overwhelming, and you might fall short, right? And so here again is just the list of triggers that could activate this inner critic. Here we are, uncertainty, transitions, big decisions. Am I going to move? Am I going to take this job? I love that one. Am I going to take this job? I'll just speak from my own experience, right? For right now, Jamie said, will you do this? Will you speak at this event? And right away, I said, yes, I would love to. That would be so exciting. And then my inner critic got on board and was like, okay, we're doing something that makes us uncomfortable. Okay, so we're going to think of a million different ideas, and we're going to get really complicated. And then we're going to get so complicated that we're going to get overwhelmed. And then we're going to shut down. And then we're going to be like, well, I think I'm going to tell Jamie no. I'm going to back out. I don't have to do it, right? So this inner critic has its own little process of this wheel that it goes through where it's like, no, don't do it. And then procrastination happens. Oh, let me put it off. Let me just put it off. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. I can't do it, right? So just using my own immediate example to walk us through the experience of the inner critic. And it's always there to pull us back to safety. And here's the body responses that can come up. It's like, I can't actually be in my alignment because I'm possibly going to be injured. I'm going to be seen in a way that could be threatening. I could get hurt. And so I might get a tight chest. My throat might start, I might start coughing or, not being able to speak. My breath will be short. I might be clenching my jaw or, the stomach anxiety. You can read all the rest there, but understanding these things, these somatic cues can help us have self-awareness, and then we can actually have choice. So when we have choice, when we're aware that the inner critic is coming online, thank you, inner critic, if we can be aware of it, now we have choice of what to do next. What do I need? What do I need to do to take care of this part? And so in the internal family systems model, we talk about self energy. In my training and background in depth psychotherapy, Carl Jung would talk about the self quite often as this like archetypal pillar of what it means to be connected with the absolute truth. And the language that I really appreciate from Dick Schwartz is when we're in self, we feel calm, the 8 C's. We feel calm, we feel compassionate, we feel curious, clear, confident, courageous, connected, and creative. So I can know that as I'm moving into self energy, I will feel these things more versus the fear, the shame, the doubt, the like anxiety. My shoulders will relax, my chest might feel more open. I might feel like, I might feel a warmth in my belly, and it's pretty steady. It's pretty spacious. And it's not a part, but it's our core essence, and it's the natural leader. It is the part, it is the self, it is the I use this movement with my hands, like this aligned version that is so powerful and potent, and is where we want to be more often working from. It's where we would like to be, meeting the world more from, is that self energy. But I can tell you that how often are we in all of these 8 C's? It's not super often or for a very long period of time, but we're all moving toward, and when we're in this healing process, the healing journey, whatever that means to you, we're all walking towards trying to find those 8 C's more and more and more. And so that's why I think it's really important to get to know these inner parts and how to dialogue with them and how to get to know them. So don't look at this slide quite yet because it's a little overwhelming. And I put it here just so that you have it as a resource afterwards. And I'll include it in a handout so that you can continue to use this exercise to continue to get to know all of your different parts, right? And I wanted to share this. James Hollis, who's a Jungian analyst, he shared this quote that I thought was really important when we're looking at getting to know our inner parts. Our imaginal capacity, our ability to form images which carry energy, that constructs the requisite bridges to those infinite worlds which otherwise lie beyond our rational and emotional capacities. So using the internal family systems model is an imaginal experience, right? What I will do is ask you to think about an instance, recently that's like on the level 3 or 4 severity of intensity. We're not in the room together. There's not opportunity to ask questions or for me to contain if something comes up. So I want you just to think of something that's like a level 3 or 4 in intensity of disturbance that happened recently that maybe triggered one of these inner critic voices of like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, or oh, I should definitely, go sit in the back of the room because they might call on me, or I have this new job and I have to do a presentation and I'm like really struggling and I'm avoiding things and I'm procrastinating. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into that imaginal process and we're going to create image. There was probably an image from that stands out to you as you think about it now. And I'm going to walk you through asking these questions to that part. I'm using my own experience because right now I can tell you that I'm not in my C's as much as I would like to be. And so I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be calm. I didn't want to be, confident. I wanted to be activated a little bit so that I could use my own experience as an example to walk you through what it looks like and might feel like. So I'm going to be doing this exercise with you in real time. And so as you think about, I'm using the example of doing this talk, speaking to you through the camera over time and space, right? Into unknown homes. And I'm hoping at some point, you will reach out and tell me how this exercise went to you, or maybe I'll get to meet you next year at the live event. But let's just get started. Yeah. Okay. So I want you to think about this event. Notice where you feel the sensation in your body. So the body holds memory. The body holds a lot of experience that is usually living below our conscious thinking mind, right? So right now for me, my belly is tight. I feel tightness in my chest. And I'm just going to hold some awareness there. I'm going to take my mind and put it into those spots and sort of ask these questions. So where our awareness goes, energy flows. And so it's almost like I'm using the mind to sort of connect in and connect with this part that is probably a lot younger. And so the first question that I'm going to pose to these areas of tightness in my body, tell me about yourself. And then I wait and see what comes. I don't force anything. And it takes as long as it takes for something to emerge. But I know that I'm holding this specific incident in my mind. And for me, it's, choosing to do the talk. And I'm holding this sensation. And then I'm asking it, so tell me about yourself. And with true authenticity and transparency, I'm just going to share what it's saying right now. And it says, I'm really scared I'm not going to do it right. I'm scared that it's not going to be good enough. And then in my internal space, I'm like, gosh, thank you. Thank you for sharing that so I can know it with you. What is your role or job and how do you help, Shannon? And what I'm hearing is, I make sure she doesn't get embarrassed. I make sure nobody hurts her. So this is deep work. How long have you been doing this job? And the first thing that this part says is forever. Forever. So how long have you been doing this job? And just listen. When did you take on this role? And then you just see what emerges. And so I'm going to ask it, when did you take on this role? And then I see an image of me getting on the school bus at like age 5 and nobody letting me sit in the seat. I was very shy as a kid. So I'm guessing around age 5. I said yes. Yeah. Do you enjoy doing your job in the way that you have to do it? I get a resounding no. No. Like an emphatic no. Is there something else that you would rather be doing? This part says, let me see what it says. Yes, it would rather be creating art. It would be I just saw this image, like creating big, I don't know what, like art pieces and color and like creating more is what it would rather be doing. And so what are your hopes and fears for Shannon or for you, for whatever, fill in the blank with your name? And what I'm hearing is, well, I hope that she can be wildly successful and deeply loved. What are you afraid would happen if you stopped doing what you do? And what I'm getting is, well, she would literally fall apart. She wouldn't do anything. Nothing would happen. Is there anything else that you would like us to know? And as what I'm getting is like, yes, this is hard. This is vulnerable. And I don't like being vulnerable. And this part is saying, I hope they get it. It's so funny how these voices come in. So it's really concerned about what it's doing right now. And then I'm going to ask this next question. How old do you think fill in the blank is? And it thinks I'm about 6 years old. And so what I would do next when I hear that number is I would say, you know what, actually, no, I'm quite a bit older. And then I would show it all of the things that I've done in my life. So I want you just to take a breath. Notice what you notice now. And then ask, what have you heard? What has self heard? And for me, what self has heard is just like how nervous and just deeply passionate this part is in its job of keeping me safe. And I feel now like the tightness in my chest is gone, the tightness in my stomach is gone, and I just feel like this deep energy of love and compassion. And I do feel like I want to like give this part like some treats and just say thank you for keeping me so safe. And actually this part, as I'm imagining it now, is feeling like it wants to go outside and play. Oftentimes it's very simple, not complicated, what these parts really want to be doing. And so as we come back into our awake, open eyes mind out of the imaginal space, I can appreciate that when I get to know these parts and give this part a voice, it releases its grip on me physically. And I even feel like I can sit down more in my seat and I can actually slow down. I can speak more clearly. I can smile more. And it's like an authentic smile. It's not a smile that I, am trying to create, right? It's authentic, it's automatic. And so this image that I, on the screen here, to me is just representative of like, what it looks like to come together towards wholeness. And like the critic can shift from enemy to your guide. And so when I can befriend this inner critic, I can, if I were really using this, I would have talked to my inner critic before I got online. I would have asked it what it needed, and then I would have followed through, and then I would have started, right? I didn't do that because I wanted it to be a little activated so that I could walk through this experience authentically. It would be my guide. It would probably say, I want you to practice it 50 times. I want you to write out the script. I don't want you to improvise, all of these different things. And I might do that so that I could feel more grounded and not concerned about what the critic might be wanting to say. And now it's like we can reclaim our wholeness. And self energy leads the way. So you are the gift. And thank you for your presence. I know Jamie's going to provide my contact information, and there's just a few little resources. I believe these slides will be available as well. Michelle Glass is an IFS practitioner. She has a lot of different content, workbooks, and guided, meditations on befriending your parts and getting to know them. Richard Schwartz, his seminal book on IFS is No Bad Parts. And then Carolyn Mace has some on sacred contracts, which talks about the archetypes, which was too broad to get into today. But I believe that the inner critic is the voice of the judge, the archetypal judge that lives probably in all of us as humans, right? So in conclusion, I want to read the poem again. And I want you just to think about these parts of us that maybe before we knew they existed would sabotage us and prevent us from feeling that refreshed and renewed connection to ourself in our personal life and our professional life, and that we have gifts. And the more I can know this part, then the more I can share my gift with the world. So I'll read it again. Behold yourself. Despite all of your doubts and insecurities, you are like a great film or play that everyone needs to see. That's why the old teachers said, behold yourself. The mountains have hints of a beauty that's hidden inside of you as well. The enchanting complexities of the coral reefs are pale lights when compared to the golden candle in your heart. What moves in any ocean also moves through each of us. 1,000 kinds of music play every hour if we become awake enough to orchestrate our own inner resonance. So let the next ticket you buy be a center row seat that places you in the center before your own soul. And for me, the word that is standing out is the inner resonance. So when we can calm these parts, when we can feel a love and compassion towards them, we can actually feel a deep sense of inner resonance. And I don't know about you, but I would like to walk around in the world with that vibration going on inside of me more and more and more. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.